Hey guys, Bubba here with the BubbaNews, all in one word, all in one news. How are you guys doing tonight? Hey, it's a lot of fun doing these with you guys over the past couple years, and I just want to say thank you to all the new subscribers. I guess some of you guys have been sharing out these videos and whatnot, but you know what? This has just been a lot of fun because I love getting this stuff out for the Lord Jesus Christ because He's coming so soon. But today's video I'm just calling Israel Prophecy Update, and we're going to talk about Iran, we're going to talk about Israel, we're going to talk about how the world keeps turning on Israel. Oh my goodness, this is starting to get crazy, but yeah, it is May 21st, 2025, almost 11 p.m., and let's get right to it. Real quick, Annie Matashenko, some of you know her in our live streams and our chats, lives over there in the UK, and her dentist is from Persia, from Iran, and he knows about Elam. And Aman, if you're listening tonight, I just want to say welcome aboard. And your nation is in Bible prophecy, and it's getting ready to come to pass. So that's why I wanted to talk about this Israel prophecy update. And we're going to be talking about Elam and breaking the bow of Elam at the foremost or the chief of their might. There in Jeremiah 49 verses 34 to 39, but 34 to 37 in particular is coming up. Oh man, guys, let's get right to it. But this is going to be wild times. What a better way to just start off with, after I did last night's video, found this story about Major General Mohammad Bagheri, Chief of Staff for the Armed Forces of the Islamic Republic of Iran, arrived in the city of Zahedan on Tuesday, close to the border between Iran and Pakistan. So he arrived to oversee ongoing military planning for a future contingency to close the eastern border of Iran with Afghanistan and Pakistan in the case of a national emergency declared in Iran. So at the beginning of this month, Iran deployed troops along the border with Pakistan for security reasons. But it sounds like Iran is preparing for some serious scenarios because borders are not just lines on a map when stuff heats up like this. And I wonder if this is to prevent foreign armies from coming into Iran or to prevent their own Iranian citizens from getting out with what's coming. You know, I wonder what kind of national emergency Iran is worried about. This is the Iranian regime national emergency that's coming. That is definitely coming indeed. But you know what? As I was getting ready to check out this next verse in Psalm 27:14, this is a fun one to memorize because I memorized it in the way of like the Cowardly Lion from The Wizard of Oz. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage. You know what I mean? And he shall strengthen thine heart. Wait, I say on the Lord. I know you guys are going to try that. You're going to try to do the Cowardly Lion dude there at the Wizard of Oz, tried to say this verse next, but wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thine heart. Wait, I say on the Lord. And that's just the joy I have, guys. It's just the joy of the Lord it's in because I know how close we are to the end, and Bible prophecy is just coming alive, and it's so exciting. Oh, man. But let's talk about more exciting. It's only, what is the day? Hey, I should say it's only Wednesday, hump day. But here's Netanyahu today. He came out and said, we returned 177 hostages, of whom 148 are alive. And there are definitely 20 more hostages alive, talking about in Gaza, that he needs to go back into and get. He said there are definitely 20 more abductees alive and up to 38 dead. And we will return them all. At the beginning of the war, there were those who said that we would not be able to even return one hostage. I thought differently, and this path has proven itself. But on the possibility of stopping the fighting for a ceasefire deal, here's what Netanyahu said. He said if there is a possibility of a temporary ceasefire for the return of the hostages, we will agree. But Netanyahu again rejected any permanent ceasefire in Gaza, adding that Israel will only agree to a temporary truce to release the hostages. Because Bibi will not accept a deal that leads to the release of all the hostages. He won't, because the the consequences of taking that position, that would require a full ceasefire if he got back all the hostages. And Netanyahu will not do that, and he will not stop the war until Hamas is eradicated. So meanwhile, the state of Palestine is getting more vocal and involved. And Palestine is not even a UN member state yet. But the state of Palestine has now, and they've been doing this lately in the past couple weeks. But they're not doing it too often, but they are starting now. And they're making this more and more public. But the state of Palestine sent a letter to pressure the United Nations the United Nations Security Council to deal with Israel and to uphold the IHL. The IHL is the International Humanitarian Laws. Because the state of Palestine is saying that, they're not doing enough to protect civilians. But look how they say an illegal, colonial, apartheid, occupation. Those are all words that they're using for Israel. Which is kind of wild. But Hamas is all but dead. Because after Hamas and its Qatari patrons in the ceasefire negotiations, Netanyahu is going to unleash the IDF to grind the land of Gaza to dust. It almost sounds like Asaph's petition to God there in Psalm 83, where it talks about the chaff and the wind. Down there. And we'll get to that verse. I believe it's down there around verse 12, 13, that area. But we know in verse 12, I believe, the reason that Gaza wants Israel and the state of Palestine, even with the Psalm 83 war, I believe, still coming up, is because it's for the land. But once you get to Ezekiel 38, Gog and Magog, it's not for the land. It's for plunder and booty. So it's kind of weird. But anyway, we'll get back to that. But you know what? Until now, the attacks on Hamas have only been from the air and artillery and a couple rounds from the Israeli military in the ocean, or the Mediterranean there, off the coast. But next, Merkava tanks and armored divisions will enter on the ground, and their top infantry units very soon. Basically, Hamas won't have a chance to surrender very soon because Israel's heading towards the point of no return. I mean, even tonight, soon we'll be seeing the pictures and videos of tragedy of Gaza's civilians coming out even more and more, even though they've been warned to evacuate southward for their safety. This happened tonight. There was an urgent warning to the Gaza residents in the north, and it said the IDF will strike hard in an area where rockets are launched at Ashkelon 2 hours ago. And this was earlier tonight. There were actually a couple rockets that were fired towards Ashkelon and a couple others about an hour later. But they didn't even make it to Ashkelon. Of course, the IDF took care of them. But the small range rockets didn't even make it out of Gaza. So they were literally hitting back their own country, their own place to live. You know what I mean? It just didn't make sense. But all these neighborhoods were evacuated. But many times Hamas will shoot to prevent the Gazan civilians from fleeing to safety. So, this is getting ready to, this one's going to be a little longer story. But you know what? Netanyahu sets displacement of Palestinians from Gaza as the condition to ending the Hamas war. So Netanyahu came out today and said that the current invasion of Gaza seeks to complete the work. Netanyahu basically announced earlier today on May 21st that they're implementing the U.S. plan to displace Palestinians from Gaza. And that this is their clear condition for lifting the siege of the Gaza Strip. Here's what Netanyahu said. He said, I am prepared to end the war in Gaza under clear conditions that they will ensure the safety of Israel. All the hostages come home. Hamas lays down its arms. Hamas steps down from power. And its Hamas leadership is exiled from the Gaza Strip. Gaza will then be totally disarmed, and we will carry out Trump's plan. A plan that is so correct and so revolutionary, Netanyahu said during his televised speech on Wednesday night. Last week, Trump doubled down on his scheme to remove Hamas during his visit to Qatar, insisting that the Gaza Strip be turned into a freedom zone. Here's what Trump said. He said, Gaza has been a territory of death and destruction for many years. I have concepts for Gaza that I think are very good. Make it a freedom zone. Let the United States get involved and make it just a freedom zone. But, during Netanyahu's speech tonight, he stressed that the ongoing Gideon's Chariots operation is meant to complete the war, complete the work. Our forces are taking more and more ground in order to clean them of terrorists and from Hamas terror infrastructure, he said, adding that at the end of the operation, which is expected to last for 1 full year, is what this article said, even though they want to have it done by the second anniversary of October 7th this year, so they can have peace and security this year. All of Gaza's territories will be under Israeli military control, and Hamas will be totally defeated. In response to growing calls from his close allies to allow humanitarian aid into Gaza, Netanyahu stated that Tel Aviv and D.C. have developed a humanitarian aid plan that will be implemented in 3 stages. He described the first stage as the entry of basic food now, and we're going to show a video here in a second. Second stage will be the opening of aid distribution centers operated by the Swiss-based Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, the GHF, which has hired U.S. and Egyptian mercenaries to distribute aid at these centers. The third step will be the creation of a sterile zone, and this will be in far southern Gaza for the Palestinian population to shelter in. They want to get almost 2 million Gazans into that very far southern zone towards Rafah along the Egyptian border, like I showed the other night. That's nuts. But here's what he finished up by saying. In this zone, which will be totally free of Hamas, residents of Gaza will receive full humanitarian aid. Yeah, we're definitely going to have to keep an eye on that. But you know what? Now I'm going to switch back to Iran real quick because CNN reported on the coming Israeli attack on Iran last night. Well, Axios reported it tonight, saying Israel preparing to strike Iran fast if Trump's nuclear talks break down. And they're scheduled to break down in a few days on Friday. Anyway, in my opinion, the attack on Iran comes anytime between the new moon, when it's totally black, and dark, beginning next Tuesday, when it'll be totally black, May 27th, going forward into next weekend, which will be June 1st time frame. And I said Shavuot will soon become a major holiday with what is coming. I'll let you guys think on that for a second. But anywho, an Israeli strike on Iran will not be a single operation, but this will be a sustained military campaign that is expected to last at least 1 week, is what Axios is reporting. The reports I've said say that Israel wants to get this done in 3.5 days. Kind of interesting usage of wording there, they say as well. But anyway, the messaging is starting to take shape. CNN last night, Axios tonight. Plus, there's a lot of unusual UK activity today, as a bunch of fighter jets and refueling aircraft were being brought into Crete. And Crete's off the coast of Lebanon, just north of Israel. Positioning for something big in nature, I believe. You know, all these areas that are showing that could be attacked very soon. Actually, I should have moved some of these down further. This isn't even my map, which I copied. I took a screenshot, but my point is Boucher is further south. Isfahan, same thing. Anyway, my point is all these areas are in Fordo. And I might have shown this image before. I can't remember, but you know what? The coming attack on Iran will be a mega operation because Israel, the United States of America, and the United Kingdom, and possibly a few others will be involved. Anyway, this map shows, you know what? And each one, and there's a thing down below that shows which radars are doing what. But this map shows how Iranian air defense systems could be layered to protect its nuclear and ballistic missile sites and oil fields. And like I said, this is going to be a minimum 72-hour continual attack. And Israel's been practicing on this. It's going to be a continual where the refuelers and the refueling jets are going to be overhead 24/7. And so are all the aircraft, and they're going to go in waves after wave after wave. But you can see how there's a big black circle, then there's a red circle, and then there's a little blue circle, a dark blue circle. And then as you get closer, there's even more little light blue circles to protect these sites. And those, like the Kramabat, the Kramshot up there and up towards Tehran, all those little targets or those little rocket dudes, those are some of their ballistic missile range sites. And you can see them mostly right there in the Zagros Mountains. Then anyway, each circle marks the kill zone of an Iranian air defense system. Basically, they're layered, kind of like Israel's is. But, anywho, can Israel penetrate Iran's defenses? Wave 1 of the F-35s will take out the air defenses. And the air defense systems that Iran has, they only have a few. So wave 2 of F-15s, F-16s, taking out any scrambled fighter jets. They really don't have any except F-4s. And conducts bombing runs. And drone strikes will be cleared for Israel to use. They're going to repeat this until ground targets are eliminated. But another option that people still aren't talking about, some of you know about Israel's ballistic missiles and their cruise missiles. These two big boys on the very far right over there, those are Jericho 2 and Jericho 3. Not even including Popeye. Some of these other missiles down here that can be used from the Popeye and stuff. Those can be used from their naval stuff and the submarines. And then the Laura, that one's a really wild one. Right next to tall boy number 2 on the right-hand side. That one's a really neat one too. But anyway, another option is to fly a very long way around Iran over the Indian Ocean with a supporting air tanker and hit them from behind. See over here, they could come in over here on this east side of Iran. I guess they could, but anywho, sorry, I get excited. But it's going to be dangerous, whatever way they do it. So the Israeli ballistic missiles are able to get through for support. And the two big missiles on the right, they're going to help Israel in destroying Elam if Iran tries to retaliate with the ballistic missiles between the continuous Israeli aircraft sorties. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Israel's Dolphin-class submarines use their hardcore firepower as well in the western one-third of Iran. So we're going to keep an eye on that because we're going to talk more about that here in a second. Because that's starting to come to a head. But, earlier tonight I knew it was way too quiet because they launched this home front command update because they had another incoming ballistic missile from Yemen inbound from the Houthis. Bibi is literally waiting for the nuclear talks to collapse and for the moments that Trump will be disappointed about the negotiations and open to giving him the go-ahead, basically, an Israeli source said. So this is all going to come to a head very soon. But the IDF did confirm one ballistic missile launch from Yemen tonight, and it was intercepted. The ballistic missile launch from Yemen was intercepted by the Arrow air defense system. But the Iron Dome and the David Sling interceptors were also deployed. So that means all 3 of Israel's air defense layers were used tonight. Well, here's another angle of it. And you're going to see how the Iron Dome is going to come up. And unlike missiles that come in, where they hit sporadically, you're going to see these explosions happen all at once. Whoa, back. Oh, sorry, guys. Oh, no. Forgive me. See what happens? I get so excited. All right, we're almost there. Sorry. This is real time. As you can tell, this is almost like doing a live stream. So when you mess up, it's like, wait a minute, what am I doing? I need to just go over like this. There we go. Here we go. Come on. Here we go. And all I was trying to do was scroll in. That's all. On these Iron Domes. That's all I was trying to do. But watch them hit it. See how they all exploded together? All right, we'll do it one more time for good luck since you guys had to go with me through my technical difficulties. Oh, and of course, what just happened here? My cat just got on me. Okay, let's keep going. Oh, let's keep going because, you know what? The people turning on Israel, they're becoming very much more vocal lately. Every single day now. And I'm going to share this video clip today from Ireland, turning on Israel. And these used to be only newspaper headlines. But the Deputy Prime Minister of Ireland sounded like he wanted to move to Gaza and be a part of the Hamas organization and the Palestinian people. Today he said this: next week I will bring a memo to government to advance legislation to prohibit imports from occupied territory, otherwise Israel. Following through on our commitment in the program for government, Ireland will continue to speak up with clarity and for purpose, for peace, and for a two-state solution. Until we see two states, Israel and Palestine, coexisting in peace and security, Ireland will double down. We will not rest.
We will do everything we possibly can to let the Palestinian people know that they are seen, that they are heard, and they are not forgotten. But we must and we will do more. Until hunger in Gaza is consigned to memory, until all remaining hostages are back with their families, until hospitals and schools in Gaza are functioning, until the hopes of Palestinian children turn into their realities, and until we see two states, Israel and Palestine, coexisting in peace and security, Ireland will double down. We will not rest. We will provide financial assistance to the Palestinian Authority. We will bring forward our own legislation in relation to the occupied Palestinian territories. We will seek a suspension of the association agreement between the EU and Israel. We will work at the International Court of Justice. We will support UNRWA when others turn their back on the organisation. We will do everything we possibly can to let the Palestinian people know that they are seen, that they are heard, and they are not forgotten.
Isn't that nuts? I mean, Spain, Ireland, Norway, the Netherlands, and more. I mean, they're getting more of Europe. More and more of Europe, even to the point of almost most of Europe now to come together in unity day by day by day. Against who? Against Israel. But you know what? Not many other nations other than the United States have even cared about the Jewish state's survival. You know, because in Genesis 12:3, God he made a special promise for those who help Israel. I mean, as we read in Genesis 12:3, and I will bless those who bless you, Israel, and the one who curses you, Israel, I will curse. And in you, Israel, all the families of the earth will be blessed. You know, over the last 77 years, America and Israel have had a very special relationship, despite their ups and downs. But unfortunately, those days may be gone very soon, as the Trump administration is he's prioritizing deals and victories that are measured in dollars. Basically, today, a grenade has been thrown into the American-Israel special relationship. And at least for the next 3.5 years of Trump's term, and probably much longer, well, somehow it just feels like the relationship's not going to be the same, especially after last week's Middle East tour. I mean, it just feels like this isn't about alliances between partnering countries, protecting each other's interests and safety anymore. It feels like these alliances are being made with global business money-making partners. I mean, Trump has sidelined Israel in his deal with the Houthis last week, and the week before, basically leaving Israel vulnerable to continued ballistic missile attacks like we saw tonight. And Trump just removed sanctions against Syria's Ahmed al-Sharaa. That's that passionate jihadist, dude. Yesterday he was a passionate jihadist. But today he's professing to be a good suit-wearing neighbor. And I'm going to talk about him here in a second, too, at the very end because of what's coming. But Trump is trusting al-Qaeda member Jolani, despite Israel's warnings to be wary of his brutal Islamic group's intentions. And Netanyahu and Israeli leaders of the future have no choice but to see this as an opportunity to chart a more independent course and to try to develop a more balanced relationship with America. But this will include developing alternative munitions and weapons supply lines and building them all internally within Israel. And they've been working on doing that. All right, here's some stuff. We're going to go to Hamas Gaza today because Hamas-run Gaza Information Office says 87 trucks reached a number of international and civil society organizations inside the Gaza Strip of humanitarian aid. They said 87 trucks arrived today. The IDF says that 100 entered today. But you know what? 100 entered, but they say 87, so hopefully by tomorrow they're going to find the remaining 13 trucks. Because the trucks belonging to the UN and the international community were carrying aid, including flour, food for babies, and medical equipment. And it entered the Kerem Shalom crossing. Literally, a total of nearly 200 aid trucks have entered Gaza since Monday. The office of the UN Director General Antonio Guterres today, he came out and said that the UN collected around 90 truckloads of goods from the Kerem Shalom crossing and dispatched them into Gaza, but offered no further details. which is weird because earlier today, the UN said that Israeli restrictions had made delivery impossible. So they came out tonight and they said, well, no, about 90 got through. They're not mentioning the three trucks that came in on Monday. Actually, there were 5. They didn't mention the 87 trucks that went in yesterday. The 100 trucks that went in today, they're saying that only 90 went in. Hamas is saying only 87 went in. You know, where are they going to do the other 13 trucks? But even the Gazans tonight were reporting that out of 92 aid trucks that entered Gaza, only 2. They literally said only. They literally said only 2 were looted. One in Khan Yunis and the other in Deir al-Balah. According to multiple local reports, the looters were armed and rode motorcycles. They opened fire at the trucks, forcing them to stop, and then they looted them. But you know what? The Israel and USA-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation will begin distributing aid in Gaza Strip very, very soon. And the goal is to prevent any aid from reaching Hamas by using USA contractors and Egyptian mercenaries. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, the GHF, will be overseen by Jake Wood. He's a U.S. military veteran who ran Team Rubicon, an organization that distributed humanitarian aid during natural disasters. So you can see up there at the top, it's just fortified wheat. You know, it's coming in. But the foundation says it will set up secure distribution sites to feed 1.2 million people in Gaza before expanding to feed every single Palestinian in the Gaza territory. It says it will coordinate with the Israeli military while security will be provided by these private military contractors. And I showed the other night how they arrived in Tel Aviv on Sunday. But these American ex-soldier dudes, I mean, whoa, easy there, Tiger. You know, these guys, they're going to be fitted out in full... oh, come on. Sorry about that, guys. They are going to be fitted out in full tactical gear. And they're currently being trained in Israel this week. And they're soon going to be deployed. Look at them. They're being trained in Israel this week. Yeah, some of them look like hillbillies, but a bunch of these guys are ex-Marines and stuff. But they're going to soon be deployed to manage the aid deliveries through secure distribution sites across southern Gaza as Israel pushes them farther and farther and farther south. So they're expected to begin their operations beginning before the end of May. I believe they're supposed to actually start doing it this Friday. All right, let's see here. Actually, we'll wrap it up here pretty soon, but you know what? This ain't good regarding Syria. Because the Turkestan Islamic Party is an Al-Qaeda affiliated group with a long-standing focus on Uyghur separatist objectives in Xinjiang. Well, this group just announced integrating into the Syrian Arab Army as the new 84th Division. Keep in mind, 2 months ago actually, March 2025, around March 8th or so that weekend, this party, the TIP, the Turkestan Islamic Party, this is basically the Turkestan faction within Jolani's HTS division, the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the HTS. But these are the guys that stormed the Sunni homes in the Tartus government in the coastal Syria, executing entire Alawite families. Remember that? Well, ever since this group under Jolani slaughtered the Alawites a few weeks ago, they have been actively recruiting jihadists from all around the world to join its ranks in Syria. And I wanted to look this up, but I was so busy before I hit the record button, but I believe this is tying into the Black Flag Army. And some of you out there know what that is and what they've been talking about. And part of the prophecies there in the Muslim world with what is coming, the Black Flag Army. And I'll tie into that here in the next day or two. Yeah, that gets really wild as well. And it almost reminds me of like the full-on those who break in. And they do the unsuccessful siege of Jerusalem and Judea there as they come into Israel. There we read about in Zechariah 12 verses 4 through 9 in particular. Zechariah 12, 2 through 9. But check this out. Jolani, remember how he was just announced yesterday that all sanctions are being lifted on Syria by the European Union? And last week, Trump announced that all sanctions are being lifted on Syria when he was visiting Mohammed bin Salman in submission to him in Saudi Arabia. Well, this is defying the United States demands that this HTS-led Syrian interim regime under Jolani expel foreign fighters. This is a U.S. demand. But I don't know what can come. Well, a lot of stuff can come about. But you know what? When Trump just basically threw out years of discussions in Congress and stuff about sanctions on Syria, and he just threw it out the window like it was yesterday's toilet paper. I mean, it just didn't make sense. So for the U.S. to demand that the Jolani's group expel these guys, they instead announced today that they're officially integrating them into Syria's new growing army. This is getting crazy, guys. I know I say it way too often, crazy town, but you know what? This whole thing with Elam, so many things are getting ready to pop off. But in my opinion, and I'm with Ricky there from End Times Headlines, this video today, premiere tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern. Trump's 60-day deadline is coming up. And some people believe it comes up at the end of the month. In other words, he was giving them all of April, all of May to come to an agreement, or else military action will be used. But I find it very interesting that the full new moon is next week, going into Monday, and especially it's fully dark on Tuesday, the 27th. Then it starts getting the little sliver of the moon going forward right into Shavuot. But I have a feeling that something's going to happen. And I'm on there, if you're watching still from the UK or whatnot, you know about Elam. You know about the Bushehr nuclear plant, at least. But the Elamites there are prophesied. And it's that section of the people groupings west of the Zagros Mountains, right along the Persian Gulf. And Persia is mentioned in Ezekiel 38, verse 5, and we're going to show that in a minute. But it's totally different, the battle with Persia, the two-thirds side of Iran, versus the prophecy of Elam, the western one-third. Because the prophecy there in Jeremiah 49 is God will bring a disaster upon them, God's fierce anger, and God will destroy from there the king and the princes. He will break the bow of Elam, which, as you know, the Elamites were very good archers. So to break their bow is to break their missile launching capability. The foremost of their might be a nuclear warhead loaded on 1 to 6 nuclear missiles, or the foremost of their might just might be their ballistic missile system that can go from Tehran to Tel Aviv in 400 seconds or 6.66 minutes. So God is going to judge Elam and bring the four winds from the four quarters of heaven, and God is going to scatter all these people towards all those winds. It's going to be a worldwide dispersion. It's going to be a humanitarian crisis, and God is going to cause Elam to be dismayed before all of Elam's enemies, such as the United States, Israel, and the UK. And he's going to send the sword after them until God has consumed them. And that is a military term. But like I mentioned in Ezekiel 38, verse 5, Persia and the Jeremiah 49 Elam are not the same prophecies. First of all, they're different prophets. Another thing is they're way different geographical locations. Totally different battlefields, totally different defeats, totally different enemies. The enemy is still the same as that. Well, first of all, the Jeremiah 49, the enemy is between Elam, Iran, and Israel, United States, and the UK. But the prophecy there in Ezekiel 38 it's actually going to be about all those 9 countries and people groupings there listed in Ezekiel 38, 1 through 6 area. But Ezekiel does omit Elam, but he does know about Elam because he mentions it in Ezekiel 32, verses 24 to 25. And there's no promise of restored fortunes for Persia, but there is for Elam in Jeremiah 49, verse 39. But yeah, just like the Persia over here on the right-hand side is Ezekiel 38 verse 5 prophecy, the Jeremiah 49 verses 34 to 39 prophecy comes up ahead of time with the Bushehr nuclear plant and a bunch of the ballistic missile sites and nuclear sites just west of the Zagros Mountains. The only problem is the radiation leak that comes out. Whoa, I am just a mess tonight. So let's just finish this out. But the radiation leak that comes out tonight comes from, it comes from the full-on, where is it? It comes from Israel. So yeah, as you guys see, I'm having, man, can you guys tell that is it not just me, but it just feels like the spiritual battles are just they're just insane right now. Look at this. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Jesus Christ is coming so soon. Oh, my word. You can feel the prince of the power over the air that is taking control of this technology. And you can see on the left-hand side how all those images are highlighted. This is getting nutty, Professor. But thank you guys so much for watching. For those of you who are new to the channel, it's usually smoother than that. But I ask for your prayers. And for those of you who have been praying for Mrs. Bubba, we took her today to the doctor there at downtown. And she had her MRI. So we'll be finding out in the next few days what's next on that schedule, to find out if a repair can happen. I just want her to be healed in the name of Jesus, just so that she can be, without pain and whatnot. So thank you guys so much for watching. This is just a mess. I'm out of here. Thank you guys for watching. We'll talk to you soon. Maranatha. Jesus Christ is coming soon.